Hey guys, Jordan here, Boo Nast on Board Game Geek with another Finer Things review. And today we're going to talk about a game that the more I play it, the more that I'm really falling in love with it. The game that had been on my radar for a while, released I believe earlier this year of 2014, and that is Quantum, put out by Funforge Press. It is for 2 to 4 players. It plays, maybe it's an hour, hour and a half, roughly. It can take a little bit longer, and some games can be a little bit shorter, but right about there. Reminds me a little bit of a game that I really enjoy, called Alien Frontiers. And again, it's a deep space game. We have dice that represent our ships, and we're flying around. There's a lot of vying for control, trying to push people out of areas and just generally dominate the board. First, let me show you what you get in the box and how it plays, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, here we have a game of Quantum set up for 3 players. For setup, you're going to pick one of the boards from the setup guide, which I'll show you later. And then everyone is going to take 3 of their ships, 3 of their dice, and roll them, with the lowest total determining who the first player is. And the first player will place one of their quantum cubes on one of the starting planets. Again, it's in the setup. And then each player in clockwise order is going to put their cubes down. And after that, we'll go back around and each player will place their 3 ships in an orbital position around their starting planet. Orbital positions being orthogonally adjacent spaces to the planet, so not the diagonals, but up, down, left, right. So, and then after that, you're going to have 2 decks of cards here. You're going to have the white cards, which are your command cards, and your black cards, which are your gambit cards. You're going to shuffle those 2 decks up, deal 3 out, and then also you're on your player mat here, you're going to place the rest of your quantum cubes, depending on how many the scenario calls for. And you're also going to have 2 other dice you'll see here, putting on your research track and your dominance track, and both of those start at 1. And you'll also have a few dice here for combat. And at that point, we're ready to start a game of Quantum. So, to win Quantum is basically just a race. It is a race to place these quantum cubes down, and the first person to put all of their quantum cubes onto the board is the winner. So what can we do on our turn, and how do we do that? What's nice here, on your player board at the bottom, you'll notice that everything here is spelled out for you. There are 2 main phases in the game, and it has a list of all the actions you can do and the special actions of your ship, and then how we gain cubes and cards, things like that. So let's just go through it. So the first phase is your actions phase, and this is the real meat of the game. This is where most of everything that's going to happen in the game happens. It says here, on the phase 1 of your turn, you can always do 3 actions, and then each ship can also do its special ability. So let's walk through the actions. The actions that are available to you are Reconfigure, which is simply taking one of your ships on the board, re-rolling it, and putting it back in place. The second action available to you is Deploy. Through the course of the game, as you either gain ships or perhaps lose ships in combat, you may find a ship that is in here in your scrapyard. The Deploy action for 1 action allows you to place that ship back out in an orbital position on any planet that you have a quantum cube. The next action is Construct a quantum cube. This is the main way that you're going to be placing cubes onto the board. There is one other way, which we'll get to in a little bit. But you'll notice all these planets here on the board each have a number next to them. This indicates what points worth of your ships have to be in order to place a cube on that planet. So in this case here, the 9, if I could get a 6, and if I somehow change this to a 3, let's say I had 3, it does not, and if I got these here, it does not matter. It's always going to take at least 2, but you could use 3 or 4 ships, as long as the total facing of my ships equals up to 9, so 6 and 3, 9 here. Then for 2 actions, I can take one of my quantum cubes and place it on the board. This is the only action that requires 2 actions to take. One other thing I wanted to mention about placing a cube, so here I have 8, so I may place my cube there. You'll note here on the planets that they only have so many spaces available, so in this case only 2 spaces available. So if green already had a cube there and I place mine, no other player can now place a cube on that planet. It is full. And we also have research. Research is simply for 1 action, taking your research die and moving it up a pip. And then finally we have move attack. Move attack. Moving and attacking in Quantum are connected. They are not separate actions. You can only attack when you move. And it's pretty straightforward. The number facing of your die indicates the number of spaces that it can move. So this one can move 1, this can move 3, this can move 6. So if we were a little bit closer, let's say we move our ship. You simply move your ship 1 space at a time. So say I started here, I can move 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I have a remaining movement point, I can then move into the actual space that another player's ship is. And then we have combat. Combat is very simple. The attacker takes the black die, and the defender takes the clear or white die, and we roll them both, adding the totals up with the ship that's in combat. So in this case, the attacker has 12, the defender has 5, and the lower of the totals wins, with attackers winning ties. So in this case, the attacker has 12, the defender has 5, the attacker loses. If you lose during attacking, there is no penalty. You simply have to move back to the space that you entered that ship's space from. If you win, however, then the opponent's cube is destroyed, or their ship is destroyed rather. They're going to re-roll it and immediately place it into their scrapyard. And then you have the option here whether to move and take the space that you attacked or to move back from where you came. Also, if you do win a combat and you successfully knock a ship out and take the space, the loser, their dominance die is going to go down by 1 and yours is going to go up by 1. And this is normally the only way to gain dominance in the game. Now, if your dominance ever gets up to 6, then you're going to be able to place a quantum cube immediately. On any planet, you don't have to have ships next to it or anything like that. Gaining 6 dominance, you immediately reset to 1 and place a cube anywhere on the board. So that is all the actions that your ships can take. And note that you can do these actions more than once, except for move attack. Each ship can only move attack 1 time. But you can research twice, you can reconfigure twice, or 3 times. You can do multiple deployment. All of that doesn't matter. Also, so you're going to do 3 of those actions, and then each ship can also use its special ability, whether it is moved or taken an action or anything or not. The special actions depend on what the die are. So, a 1 gets a free move attack on its turn. So let's say I was here, if I moved 1, I'm still out of range there because I have to move into the space with the ship, but I could use my special ability to do a free move attack right into there, and then we'd have combat as normal. Note that if you're using the 1 special ability to do the free move attack, you must attack with it. Secondly, the 2 is a transport ship. So in this case, a 2 can pick up any ship that is in its surrounding space, so any of the spaces that are adjacent to it, including diagonal. You can literally pick that ship up, move its normal 2 movement, and then drop that ship in any surrounding space. 3s can warp. So 3s simply warp, and that is swapping places with one of your other ships. So in this case, I could swap the 1 and the 3. 4s can change themselves either into a 3 or a 5. Okay? So if I have a 4, it can become a 3 or a 5. Your choice. 5s can move diagonally, and they can also attack diagonally. And then finally 6s, they can do the reconfigure action, the normal action that you can take in your turn, but 6s can do it for free. So those are all the actions that are available to the ships, depending on what their number is. None of those count as actions, those are all free actions, and like I said, the ship does not have to take an action earlier in the turn in order to do its special ability. So after you've done all of that, then you're going to go into phase 2 of the game. In phase 2, what you're going to do is you're going to draw 1 card for every quantum cube that you've placed. So every quantum cube that you place down this turn, you're going to be able to draw a card from the available piles over here. Also, if during your turn your research cube had gotten up to 6, then in phase 2 of your turn you're going to reset this to 1, and you'd also be able to draw a card. So it is possible that you may be able to draw multiple cards in the same turn. Now these cards over here are 2 different types. Like I said, there are command and there are gambit. The command cards are cards that are going to give you special abilities for the remainder of the game. So in this case, gain an advanced card when your research equals 4 or higher instead of 6. Other things will let you have another extra move. You may be able to move or attack in different ways. Here, once per turn as a free action, you may reduce your dominance by 1 and gain 3 research. So you're going to notice on the side of your board here that you have 3 slots available for these command cards. So you can fill up to 3. If you take a 4th, that's fine. You're just going to have to discard one of the other, so you can only have a max of 3. And those are just going to be static abilities that you have for the remainder of the game. The gambit cards here, the black ones, these are one-shots. So you're just going to do whatever it says on the card and immediately discard it. The card just takes effect, and then that's it. So this one, relocation here, will let you move someone else's quantum cube to another planet. Your aggression here will let you immediately add 2 to your dominance. Your momentum here will let you immediately take another turn, but with only 2 actions instead of 3. So that is pretty much the gist of the game there. We're going to be flying around with our ships, attacking each other, getting to combat a little. But really what you're going to want to, the meat of it is that you're going to be wanting to move your ships around and get them into position, where they could, in this case they're at 9, where they can effectively place cubes. One over here, and then I had 7. Now I also know that the number has to be exact, so you cannot go over or under. It has to be exactly 8. Okay, that is Quantum. Like I said, this is a game that the more I play it, the more I'm finding in it, the more combos I'm finding, the more that I'm loving it. This is a game where you can kind of have an overall strategy or kind of just a general approach that you're going to want to have to the game, and maybe you can think a few turns ahead. But I believe at a fundamental level, this is definitely more of a tactical kind of reacting to the situation, whatever it may be, on your turn. And so a lot of your turns are going to be anticipating the next one. So you're going to be placing. I got to place a cube this turn, and now I can move my ships over here and get ready. So that next turn I can just do one move, place a cube, get going, and things like that. And of course, as the turns go around and you're waiting to do that, and you get back to your turn and suddenly your ships are gone, people have moved, someone's in the orbital position you need to be, your plans are going to fail sometimes. times. And a lot of this game is just reacting to whatever the situation is and whatever the board situation is at the time of your turn. So if you like games like that, then you're gonna love this one. You know, if not, if you like games where I can really kind of plan a strategy out, and kind of have a plan that I can slowly kind of enact over the course of turns, this is not what you're going to find in this game. Also, with that, the cards and the cards, the combinations, there are just an infinite amount of combinations that you can do with these cards. You're gonna look at some of these cards and I'm like, man, that's way overpowered. How could we even get, if someone gets this card, they're going to win the game. And then you look at the next card and the next card and you keep saying the same thing. So it ends up kind of balancing itself out in that way. Yes, the cards are powerful, but everyone's having access to them and everyone's going to be using them. They're kind of counteracting each other. Also on that, the combos that you can make, so you can really set up people can have some really interesting, huge swing turns going on just with the combos of those cards. So that's something to really kind of look out for is what are the other player, what do my opponents have? Those white command cards. And you need to constantly be reminding yourself, what can this guy do on his turn? What can they do on this turn? And looking at that pile, if he places a cube, is he going to take that card and move my guy over? He's going to be able to do this now. The game, I think, is really balanced. I think it's really well balanced. Even with all these huge swings and stuff like that and combos possible, I think that this is a game where even if you're really behind or you're feeling like, man, there's no way, I can't come back, you can. You're never out of this game, and we often have games in my group and stories that I've heard from other people playing the game where oftentimes it comes down to, man, anyone can win on their next turn. And so sometimes I can break down to one thing that can lead to, is that it does add a lot of great tension and everyone feels engaged and everyone feels like, I'm right there at the end and anyone has a possibility of winning. Just how do I do it? But it can kind of de-evolve into a thing of, okay, we've got to take this guy out. You've got to fight his ship and destroy it or else he's going to win. And then we're doing it to the next person and then the next person and the next person. So in one way it's great because everyone's there, anybody can win this game, no one's out. But sometimes near the end it can sometimes drag the game out a little bit because everyone's just kind of leader bashing and just trying to well, I've got to kill you, you're going to win on your turn. And then got to kill you, at the very next turn. So that can kind of happen. Now, a few things that I feel that I should mention about the game, if you are looking at a purchase of this game. One thing is, with the balance and everything, I will say there are some maps, you'll get this handy dandy little insert in the game here, and it shows you how to set up 2, 3, and 4 player maps, and then some additional rules on making your own scenarios. There are a few on here that showed up in the forums at BoardGameGeek.com, where it was brought to the designer's attention that some of these maps, in rare circumstances, could actually shut a player out, where they wouldn't be able to place another cube, because normally you can only place a cube on 1 cube per planet. And so it became, not often, but it could happen, and I have seen it where someone may be shut out and they don't have room for another cube. So that is a rule change that was made by the designer that is in the forums on BoardGameGeek. Also, some of the maps as shown on this insert here, where actually you couldn't build them because you didn't have enough of that number tile. That's just a little thing like that. But so again, if you are thinking about getting this game, or you have just recently got this game, I would definitely go and look it up on BoardGameGeek.com and look through the files section, look through the forums there, because there has been a rule change to balance out, to amend that player shutout situation that can happen. And also, one of the cards in the game got its text altered slightly because it was a little too overpowered. So that's something you definitely want to check out. And also I would say when you first get the game, and I know this is pretty common I think with almost every copy, is that the dice have a weird film, kind of tacky, sticky feel to them. I personally just washed them off with soap and water, I think 2 times, and just wiped them down really well, and that seemed to work pretty well. I had no problems with that. But just a few things that you'll want to look out for with Quantum. But barring that, and I think this is an excellent game, difficult choices, lots of tension, everyone's engaged. I'm really enjoying it, my game group is really enjoying it, and it's something that just, the more I play it, the more I love it, and the more interesting combos between the cards that I get to see. So that is Quantum, and I hope that this video helps you decide if this is a game for you or not.